Have you ever been there? Everything seemed to be going well, the connection was strong, the vibe was right, and suddenly she started pulling away. Right when it felt like she was finally opening up, she became distant. And your mind starts spinning. Did I mess up? Did she lose interest? Was it all a lie? But what if I told you that most of the time, her distance has nothing to do with losing feelings, and everything to do with how much she's actually feeling? Sounds contradictory, right? But this might be the key to finally understanding her. In this video, I'm going to break down the real reasons why women suddenly withdraw when things seem to be going perfectly. We'll talk about fear, emotional insecurity, internal conflict, silent tests, and even past wounds that still echo in the present, all through the lens of Stoic philosophy, so you can learn how to control your emotions, manage stress, stay calm under pressure, and handle her emotional waves with wisdom and presence. What I'm about to share with you is not common knowledge, and here's the thing. This isn't just about understanding her behavior. It's about understanding yourself in the middle of all this. You'll learn how perception, self-discipline, and emotional intelligence can completely shift the way you handle a woman's emotional withdrawal and turn it into a moment of connection, not confusion. This video is deep, real, and game-changing, but only if you stay with me until the end. So take a moment now, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming content on stoicism, emotional mastery, self-development, and powerful relationships. And if you've ever been confused by a woman's silence, share this with a friend. This just might be the clarity you both need. Many men find themselves stunned when, just as the emotional connection feels stronger, the woman begins to pull away. This unexpected reaction seems illogical at first glance, but it has deep roots in fear and emotional insecurity. The video highlights that this change in behavior is not disinterest, it's a defense mechanism. She feels like she's losing control over her emotions, so she creates distance. This detachment is an unconscious attempt to restore inner balance, even if it causes confusion for the other person. Stoic philosophy teaches us to develop the power of perception, and that's exactly the key here. When a woman feels emotionally involved, she starts to lose her sense of control, and this triggers a silent alarm. For some people, especially those with a sensitive emotional history, feeling too much is perceived as a threat. The intensity of affection becomes destabilizing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The greatest empire to conquer is the one within," and that's exactly what she tries to reclaim when she distances herself. Here's where the emotionally prepared man makes all the difference. A man with emotional control, mind mastery, and self-discipline reacts with serenity to her withdrawal because he understands her silence is not rejection. It's a request for space. Stoicism invites us to respond not with impulse, but with clarity. Instead of pressuring, he offers freedom. Instead of demanding answers, he shows strength. This posture creates a powerful effect. While others crumble in panic, he stands out with his inner peace. Imagine, for example, a man who notices his partner pulling away and chooses not to chase or overwhelm her with questions. Instead, he keeps his routine, invests in self-development, exercises, reads Seneca or Epictetus, stays grounded and open-hearted. His behavior sends a silent message. I am whole, but I'm here when you're ready. This emotional maturity often leads to the opposite reaction. She sees she can trust, and she returns by choice, not by pressure. This attitude is only possible when the man is free from ego. The ego wants control, immediate answers, guarantees, but ancient wisdom reminds us, what's truly valuable needs space to bloom. As the emotional bond deepens, she instinctively checks if that space still exists. If she feels absorbed, she pulls away. If she can breathe, she stays. It's the paradox. The lighter his presence, the stronger the connection becomes. And that's where Stoic philosophy shines, showing us strength lies in letting go without losing direction. So before you jump to conclusions or force a connection that seems to be slipping, the wise man pauses and reflects. Is this distance actually a reflection of how deep we've gone? Sometimes it's at the peak of emotional closeness that fear screams the loudest. And when a man understands this, he doesn't fight the silence. He welcomes it with maturity. But that's just the beginning. What comes next reveals even more about the roots of this behavior. In many cases, distance isn't about what's happening now, it's about memories that never fully healed. As feelings grow, the woman begins to revisit old emotional experiences, heartbreaks, betrayals, disappointments. Even if her current relationship is positive, emotional memory triggers a survival instinct. For many women, loving deeply is the same as exposing themselves to the risk of being hurt again. That's why she pulls away, not because she doesn't care, but because she feels too vulnerable. As emotions intensify, they also become intimidating, not because they're bad, but because they become too much. This emotional overload activates a protective mechanism. She starts thinking, what if I give my all and get broken again? These thoughts are common for anyone who's had their heart shattered, especially if there hasn't been a conscious healing process. So instead of moving forward, she freezes. And what was supposed to be growth becomes defense. It's her mind trying to block the pain before it even begins. A man who understands this gains a type of wisdom that transforms relationships. Instead of reacting with pressure or fear, he adopts a stoic posture, calm observation, deep respect, giving space but staying present. He doesn't disappear, but he doesn't chase either. He behaves like someone who knows how to stay calm under pressure, just like Seneca taught, and understands that true love only grows where emotional freedom is present. This posture is more than mature. It says, I am not the past that hurt you. Here's a practical example. When she turns cold or distant, instead of panicking, the man turns inward. He doesn't run after her. He runs toward himself. He can begin a personal development routine, read meditations by Marcus Aurelius, practice emotional control techniques, or even start journaling. These habits reinforce mental strength and protect him from reactive behavior, which would only push her further away. Stoicism teaches us that pain only has power when it's misunderstood. In this case, her distance isn't about you. It's about a battle within her. She's torn between the desire to love and the fear of suffering. The wise man sees this and doesn't take it personally. He knows that almost everyone has been wounded by love. The difference lies in how we respond, with panic or with presence. Real mind mastery is shown when we choose not to attack someone who's just trying to protect themselves. And here lies a powerful truth. Distance isn't always the end. It's often a sign of how deep the connection has become. What she feels is so strong that it scares her. So instead of diving in, she retreats. But the man who remains calm during this emotional tide earns a rare kind of respect. And it's exactly at this point that she begins to test him. Can he handle the silence? Can he stay grounded? That's what leads us to the next point. Distance is often not a goodbye. It's a test. Even if she doesn't consciously realize it, her subconscious is running a strategy. She wants to know who she's really dealing with. As the emotional bond deepens, doubts arise. Is he emotionally stable, or will he freak out if I disappear? Can he stay grounded without guarantees? In this situation, her silence is not punishment, it's observation. Women instinctively test whether a man is a safe harbor or just another storm. Stoicism teaches us the best response to chaos is serenity. This type of emotional test is more common than you think. She pulls away, and in place of affection, she leaves a void. A man's reaction during this time says more than 1,000 words. If he panics, sends desperate messages, demands explanations, he proves he lacks mind mastery. But if he stays calm, respects her space, and keeps his focus on his own life, he communicates strength. That behavior says, I'm steady, even when things are uncertain. Seneca would call this true mental strength. Here's the practical part. During her silence, a man should act like a wise sage, not a lost boy. He should maintain his routine, stay disciplined, fulfill his commitments, and most importantly, care for his emotional state. Reading a page of Epictetus in the morning, exercising, avoiding social media overload, and feeding his mind with clarity. These are habits that silently show her that he's emotionally self-sufficient. This doesn't mean being cold, but centered. This stage is also a huge opportunity for growth. Many men waste it by falling into self-abandonment. They pause their lives, get anxious, sabotage themselves, But Stoicism proposes the opposite. Use this time for self-development. Improve your emotional intelligence, reflect on your triggers, study relationships, read something like The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. When she returns, and she usually does, she finds a man who's even more grounded and mature. But remember, she's not only testing if you're strong, she's testing if you're trustworthy. Trust here doesn't just mean loyalty, it means emotional predictability. A man who stays calm under pressure, who doesn't overreact to silence, who doesn't spiral into drama, radiates rare emotional stability. That triggers what we call secure trust, a deep sense that with him she can be vulnerable without fear. And that's the moment everything starts to shift. But before that can happen, she still has another battle to fight. One not against you, but within herself. The next step is the tug-of-war between reason and emotion. And she's not always sure which side is telling the truth. Even when everything seems fine on the outside, there's a silent war raging inside her. It's like two voices screaming at once. One says, "Go ahead, you're safe," and the other warns, "Careful, this could destroy you." This battle between reason and emotion is quiet, but fierce. She knows she's feeling something deep. She wants to continue, but fear keeps holding her back. Stoicism teaches us that our perceptions shape our reality. And when she perceives danger, her emotions react as if it's real. Even if you've done nothing wrong, this is the root of a contradiction many men don't understand. A woman can be falling for you and still distance herself. Logic tells her to embrace love, to give it a chance, but fear screams that she's at risk. That inner split causes confusing signals, affectionate one day, cold the next. Stoic wisdom reminds us that what we see externally is not always the full picture. Her withdrawal isn't about the man, it's about the emotional chaos she hasn't yet learned to calm. A simple example, you two just spent an incredible few days together, full of laughter, depth, connection. Then suddenly she becomes distant. The man feels lost, wondering what changed. But inside her, there's an old belief resurfacing. This is too good to be true. That self-sabotaging voice comes from patterns formed long before you appeared. Stoicism suggests that when something scares us, instead of reacting, we must observe. And in relationships, that means not personalizing her inner confusion. This is where emotional control becomes essential. A man who has cultivated inner peace doesn't respond with neediness or accusations. He stays calm, gentle, grounded. That kind of consistency helps calm her storm. She sees that even when she's unsure, he remains stable. That quiet strength is almost spiritual. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Tranquility comes when we accept things as they are, not as we wish they were." Want a practical tip? When she seems cold or conflicted, say less and observe more. Listen with empathy without trying to fix her. And if you say anything, say it with clarity and calm. "I understand that sometimes you need your space. I'm here if you want to talk." That shows emotional maturity, mind mastery, and deep respect for her process. More importantly, it removes pressure. When a woman feels she can feel, without being judged, she starts to open up. But that opening takes time. Before she can reconnect with you, she must first reconnect with herself. And when that realization hits, a new kind of distance might appear. Not out of fear, but as a way to rediscover her sense of self. There comes a moment when, even while falling in love, a woman feels a deep urge to return to herself. It's not rejection, it's an internal voice saying, "I need to remember who I am without anyone by my side." This kind of distance is closely tied to identity. As the emotional bond deepens, there's a risk of losing oneself in the relationship. And she senses that risk. Stoicism teaches that no one should be enslaved by their passions, and her distancing is an attempt to preserve the inner freedom she needs to live authentically. Many women, upon realizing they're becoming emotionally dependent or overly attached, choose to step back to reaffirm their individuality. It doesn't mean the relationship is over. It means she needs to reconnect with her own essence. This process isn't always rational, but it's powerful. She withdraws to reconnect with her values, goals, and dreams. And that's not a rejection of you. It's a commitment to herself. The wise man understands that this silence is often a personal ritual of reintegration. Here's a practical example. During this phase, she may spend more time alone, revisit old projects, reconnect with friends, travel solo, or simply reduce communication. The impatient man sees this as emotional withdrawal. But the man who practices mind mastery knows that the more she reconnects with herself, the more whole she becomes when she returns. Instead of seeking her out, he reinforces trust. That, in turn, draws her in deeper than any effort to hold on. In this context, a man's self-discipline becomes essential. Rather than reacting with insecurity, he remains steady. He uses the moment to deepen his own personal development, strengthening his inner peace and expanding his growth. He understands that just as she needs to rediscover herself, so does he. As Stoicism teaches, true freedom is inner freedom, the kind no emotion or relationship can take away. This phase is a turning point for the relationship. If the man tries to pull her back too soon, she retreats further. But if he honors her space while staying grounded, she feels safe. That safety, unlike promises or words, comes from observation. She sees that he respects her space, but hasn't disappeared. That kind of maturity communicates volumes. And ultimately, it's not just love she's looking for, it's the freedom to be fully herself while still being loved. But sometimes, even that space isn't enough, because what pushes her away isn't just a search for identity. It's the fear of having to carry the emotional weight of someone who depends too much on her. And that leads us into the next challenge. In many relationships, the issue isn't too much love. It's emotional imbalance. When a woman senses that a man is placing his entire emotional world on her shoulders, it doesn't feel comforting. It feels overwhelming. As paradoxical as it may seem, the more he shows emotional dependence, the more she feels the urge to pull away. Stoicism reminds us that we must be whole before we give ourselves to others. And what she starts to question is, does he truly care for me? Or is he trying to fill a void? Even if it comes from a genuine place, this behavior can feel suffocating. She senses that any sign of absence is treated as rejection, and every silence becomes a crisis. That starts to feel heavy. She begins to wonder, will I have to carry this relationship alone? That feeling of emotional responsibility wears her down. She doesn't want to be the emotional anchor for a man. She wants a partner who knows how to stay calm under pressure, who possesses mental strength, and who doesn't unravel every time she pulls away a little. The wise man notices this before the relationship collapses. Instead of becoming emotionally needy, he seeks balance. How? By developing emotional intelligence. He understands that being present doesn't mean being clingy, that caring doesn't mean overwhelming. And more than anything, he knows that a healthy relationship is built on two complete individuals, not one trying to fix or complete the other. Stoicism teaches those who need too much end up pushing others away, but those who are whole attract. Practically speaking, this means showing up with a light presence, being there without invading. For example, sending a message with warmth, but not expecting an instant reply, showing interest, but not surveillance. Living your own life, maintaining friendships, working on personal projects, exercising, studying self-development and philosophy. Showing her that you have a full life, and she's part of it, but not the only purpose. That's attractive, that's rare. When a woman sees that a man doesn't idolize her blindly but chooses her consciously, she relaxes. She feels that she can draw close without being consumed, that she can love without having to carry the weight of the other. This creates a kind of trust that can't be bought, only built. And that construction starts with mind mastery and emotional control. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. If your presence is light, she stays. If it's heavy, she retreats. But here's the twist. Sometimes the reason she pulls away has nothing to do with the present. It's the past coming back. Unhealed wounds begin to echo louder the closer she gets to real love. And that next layer of emotional distance might confuse even the wisest man. Love in the present doesn't always silence the ghosts of the past. Sometimes, the current man is paying the price for wounds he didn't cause. because her mind still struggles to separate who hurt her from who's trying to love her. When a woman has been cheated on, abandoned, or devalued, she carries open scars, even if she says she's fine. And ironically, the stronger her feelings for you, the more those old pains get triggered. Stoicism teaches that we shouldn't relive old wounds, but in love, that's often easier said than done. It's as if her heart whispers, "You've been here before, and last time it broke you." Her self-protection mode kicks in. She doesn't think it out, she just feels, and that feeling becomes a warning. Even when everything is going well, she starts to sabotage it. She pulls away, creates issues where there are none, starts unnecessary conflicts that lead to distance. All of it is a subconscious attempt to avoid falling again. It's not rational, it's emotional survival. The man who truly understands this doesn't take it personally. He knows her withdrawal isn't about him, but about what she's still carrying. And as hard as it is, he chooses to respond with compassion, not frustration. He remains steady, present, and silently supportive. He doesn't try to fix her, nor does he say, "You need to trust me more," because he knows that only increases the pressure. Instead, he offers something rare, space for her to process, in her own time, what still needs healing. Let's look at a real-life example. She pulls back after a deep moment of intimacy. Instead of confronting or guilt-tripping her, the man continues with his life and sends her a gentle message a few days later. "I know sometimes emotions get intense. Just wanted you to know I'm here if you feel like talking." That message doesn't pressure or judge, but it shows maturity. Over time, this kind of emotional steadiness disarms defenses she didn't even know she had. That's the power of emotional intelligence and self-discipline. Past traumas create distorted emotional filters, and if the man doesn't understand this, he'll waste energy trying to interpret every withdrawal as rejection. Stoicism teaches, master your mind or it will master you. In this scenario, the man must overcome his own anxiety and realize she's still fighting old wars. He can't win them for her, but he can be the one who doesn't abandon her while she learns how to win them herself. And it's exactly when she realizes she can trust that kind of presence, calm, pressure-free, non-judgmental, that something deeper begins to awaken. It's no longer fear or trauma driving the distance. It's a longing for emotional safety. And that brings us to the deepest reason of all. Deep down, her distance is a silent request. She doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to cut ties completely, and definitely doesn't want to hurt you. What she really wants, and maybe can't even put into words, is emotional safety. She wants to love without fear, to surrender without losing herself, to connect without being consumed. But because she hasn't yet learned how to ask for this directly, she expresses it through silence, withdrawal, and emotional distance. Stoicism reminds us, what we don't understand, we tend to judge. And here, the wise man's role is to interpret the invisible signals with sensitivity. She wants to be loved with freedom. She wants to feel protected, not trapped. She wants space to be herself, without feeling she must mold herself to meet someone else's expectations. The problem is that most men respond to her distance with fear, pressure, or neediness, which only drives her further away. That's why the more a man tries to close the gap in desperation, the more she shuts down. The secret lies in offering something rare, presence without pressure. The man who practices mind mastery acts differently. He stays calm under pressure, shows emotional resilience, and doesn't take her confusion personally. When she pulls away, he doesn't vanish, but he doesn't chase either. He remains steady with quiet strength. That allows her to approach in her own time and her own way. It gives her the feeling that she can open up without fear of being judged or overwhelmed. A practical example, she pulls away and instead of reacting with panic, he sends a gentle, reassuring message. "I know sometimes we need space. Just wanted you to know I'm good, and I'm still here." That sentence, simple as it seems, is like a balm to someone caught between emotion and logic. It shows that he won't take her silence personally, and it proves his emotional maturity. With time, that consistency melts even the most guarded heart. When a woman experiences that kind of energy, something shifts inside her. She feels safe. She realizes she no longer needs to run or test. She understands she can be vulnerable, without being devoured. And that feeling, rare and precious, is what every woman longs for, even if she never says it out loud. She wants to be understood. She wants to be seen beneath the surface. She wants to surrender, but only if her essence can stay intact. And this is where the man makes all the difference. Not by trying to decode her like a puzzle, but by offering something far more powerful than analysis: consistency. Instead of reacting, he chooses to stay. Instead of dramatizing, he listens. Instead of demanding love, he builds trust. Because in the end, she's not just testing him, she's trying to figure out if she can trust her own heart. And when she finds a man who understands that, she stops running, and she begins truly to stay. Now that you understand why a woman pulls away just when she's most emotionally involved, the real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you keep reacting with fear and anxiety? Or will you use this wisdom to become a grounded, emotionally stable man who knows how to lead with calm, not chaos? Stoic philosophy teaches us that true power comes from within. And today, you've seen how that power plays out in relationships too. You don't have to be confused or hurt every time someone pulls away. In fact, now you know that emotional distance is often a hidden invitation, a chance to grow, to remain composed, to show emotional maturity. So ask yourself, are you ready to become the kind of man a woman respects, trusts, and chooses freely? Or will you keep being another guy who cracks under emotional pressure? Your answer creates your path. Start by applying what you've learned today. Stay disciplined, keep your routine, read Marcus Aurelius, practice emotional control, and stop taking everything personally. Sometimes, what feels like rejection is actually a cry for understanding. And the man who sees that, without ego, without panic, earns something greater than attention. He earns trust. Now I want to hear from you. Which point hit you the hardest? Have you ever been in a situation where a woman suddenly pulled away and you didn't know why? Drop a comment below and share your experience. I read everything. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send this video their way right now. And of course, if this content brought you value, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Here you'll keep learning how to stay calm under pressure, master your emotions, and become a man of strength, wisdom, and deep emotional presence. See you in the next one. And remember, her silence is never louder than your ability to understand.